I've been a security guard in my company for over 2 years now, but the work my company does is not your typical run of the mill. To put it simply, my company accepts jobs which no other security company will. That includes high risk assignments, which often result in the deaths of the staff members or abandoning their post. Let me take it from the top. When I started working here, they had a very long one-on-one with me to explain all the potential dangers I would be facing. They also made me sign an NDA and a bunch of other papers which stated that if something were to happen to me, the company would not be held responsible. They explained that the job is risky, but also paid well. I had been jobless for a while and jumped at the opportunity regardless of the risks. Unlike most other companies though, they made me read through the entire NDA out loud and made sure I was aware of all the rules. Some of the things I read there made me think initially that this was all a joke, but then I saw my superior was dead serious. My job would basically be to provide support to the guards at the other posts via comms and patrol the perimeter I was stationed at. Now, our HQ was located in an office building compound which had multiple companies renting through the adjacent buildings. I would mostly work nights with the occasional mornings. The rules were as follows. I was to do a full sweep of the compound in all offices, save for Building 4, the call center office. I was not to approach the Building 4 under any circumstances, no matter what I heard from the outside. Even if I saw somebody inside from the windows, I was not to engage. When I asked for more details, they refused to answer me, stating that I would simply obey their orders if I value my life. Now, people have normal 9-to-5 jobs in that building, and nothing seems to be wrong during the day. When I do ask the employees about it during my morning shifts though, they all seem to either not know anything or abruptly find an excuse to end the conversation. For Building 6, the designer company, the rules were even stranger. Here's what the chief told me. In Building 6, you may sometimes run into someone, a woman to be precise. She's going to try to start a conversation with you. It is imperative that you ignore her presence at all costs. She will try to talk to you, taunt you, but she will never get in your way. An extremely important rule to remember, and I cannot stress this enough, is that if you see her in the building, don't run or exit the building before you finish sweeping. Trust me, she'll know. Do the sweep as you normally would. Check every room and then quietly exit. Ignore her all the way. She will become increasingly agitated and violent, might even try to startle you. Tell you there's something behind you in a very convincing manner. Just ignore her. If you don't, well, you don't want to know what happened to the last guard. I've since encountered the woman once, and it was a grueling and agonizing experience I would rather not talk about. Another rule I had to remember was not to open the gate between the hours of 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. The chief said that under no circumstances am I to open the gate. Even if the next guard comes 5 minutes earlier to relieve me of my duty, the gate was to remain closed. That brings me to the experience I had once. It was about 6 months after I started working, and the sun was almost already up. I heard knocking on the gate, and when I went out, I saw through the gate the silhouette of my coworker. "Hey, mind opening the gate?" he asked. As I approached and put my key into the keyhole, my phone started ringing. I answered it without even looking at the caller, but when I heard the voice, my blood froze. It was my coworker. "Hey, I'm gonna be late 30 minutes today. Sorry about that, man." I hung up and just then realized it was 6:50 a.m. I stared at the silhouette on the other side of the gate, who suddenly started banging on the door, demanding to be let in, stating he had lost his cell phone and he was the real coworker. I retreated to the guardhouse and waited for what seemed like forever until the banging stopped. In reality, it only lasted until 7 a.m. Those were all the rules I had to follow on my own post, and most of the time, it's uneventful. However, I've heard stories from the other coworkers. Since I'm not in contact with the guards at the post, one of them told me this story. He worked as a guard in a residential building, and one night, an old man who lived there called him to come up to his apartment. He didn't explain what was wrong, just told him to go there, so he did. When he reached the apartment, the wife of the old man was crying, stating that her husband was dead. The guard tried convincing her that her man was very much alive and had in fact brought him there, but when he turned around, the old man was gone. It was then that he saw the old man's dead body in his chair near his sobbing wife. He quit that same night. Another creepy thing that happened was on a farmstead, which our company has guard posts on. A guy by the name of Jeff, who worked there, told me about his own experience, which made him run away from his post in the middle of the night. So apparently, the farm was empty at the time since it needed much more stuff built first, but his duty was basically patrol circles around the farm and make sure there were no squatters or vandals. So one night, as he's walking around, he hears somebody calling his name in a playful tone. He dismisses it as his imagination at first, but when it recurs, he asks who's there and demands they show up with their hands in the air. Now, I haven't seen this, so I can't guarantee anything, but Jeff swears it's true. He says all of a sudden, out of the crops, a man just stands up. The top of the crop, which reached to his waist, which was technically impossible because the crops themselves were taller than Jeff, and he's a pretty tall guy. But the man grins at Jeff and continues calling his name playfully, as if he's still hiding from Jeff. Needless to say, Jeff didn't stick around to see what the hell the guy wanted. When he reported it to HQ, they said that there were sightings of that man in the past, always calling the names of the guards, but never really doing anything harmful. The final thing I'll share here is my experience when I stationed at a hospital for 1 month. It was a private clinic of some sort, and my job was to basically monitor the camera feed. Camera 3 was off though, and when I asked why, they told me to keep it that way and never turn it on. They also said that from time to time, I may see a person on the feed, which covered the outside of the security's office, and that he would just be standing there, facing the door. I was to remain in my office when that happened and not glance at the door. He would usually disappear after 30 minutes or so. Patrolling was strictly forbidden between the hours of 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. Money is one of the reasons why I haven't quit so far, and the dangers aren't that bad once you get used to them and you know what you're doing. And plus, getting stationed at a different posts keeps the job adventurous and dynamic. This didn't happen to me firsthand, but since it happened to one of my coworkers and during my shift, I would fear to even go use the restroom alone. So just to recap on the setting, the local port has a radius of nearly 2 miles, and there are 3 overnight security guards on that shift, including me. We were all at the front gate post, and it's about the size of a trailer home. The front gate post is separated from everything else: the site, buildings, slabs, offices, the oil rigs, everything. It's the entry point to the entire industrial park. The offices and restrooms are about walking distance from our post, and it's really dark since there wasn't really any light around. Around 2 a.m., the lieutenant walked out of the post to go use the restroom. The restrooms are deep in the center of the offices. The offices carry a very creepy vibe because they were constructed around the 1950s, so the wooden floorboards and walls were really out of style there. About 7 minutes later, me and Mike look out of the post window to find our lieutenant sprinting back to the post. At first, we thought it was hilarious since he's a chubby dude, so we found it funny watching him run. Then, a realization started to kick in. The lieutenant was the one who let out the fact that the site was haunted. He said that he's seen things, and that it didn't really startle him that much anymore. We slowly started to imagine and wonder what the hell he had seen or heard that scared the hell out of him. I mean, it must have been bad enough for him to be running back in a very hysterical manner. The lieutenant opens the door to the post that me and Mike are in, and we are both speechless and just staring at him while he catches his breath. After catching his breath, he tells us, "This is the last time I'll ever use that restroom in the office building. I was using the bathroom in the 3rd stall, and then I heard the restroom door swivel open. I thought it was one of you, so I simply ignored it. But the thing is, I didn't hear any footsteps. I was listening to music, but I paused it to see if I could hear anything. A few seconds went by, and nothing. And then I heard the water faucet go off by itself. Then, a few seconds later, The air dryer also went off. I finished my business and ran back as fast as I could because I knew it wasn't either of you in there. The creepier part about this is that both the water faucet and the hand dryer are both motion activated, so in order for them to have gone off, something must have triggered it. Before this incident, I was already suspicious about using that restroom alone. I hated taking craps at work during my night shift because I was always anticipating for something creepy like this to happen to me. The worst part is, when you're taking a crap, you're in a vulnerable position. Also, those restrooms are way too deep in the building and it's pitch black inside. You would need a flashlight to go inside and it's really quiet and creepy.